After years of saving, I was finally able to buy myself a small apartment in the city. This place was very crowded and life here was quite busy, but that was okay because all my efforts were all rewarded. Since all my savings went into the house, I didn't have much left, so furniture was also a big deal for me. But luckily, I joined a number of groups that specialized in second-hand sales, and I also could find the items I liked. Without hesitation, I contacted the seller and ordered them immediately. The delivery also arrived very soon. The seller also seemed to be the owner of these items. He looked pretty happy when he sold them to me. He also directly helped the transport team. Each item was loaded from the truck. I also stood beside him to observe everything. As soon as I saw them, my eyes lit up, because in my mind I thought that when I bought liquidated goods, I would probably encounter old and slightly damaged items, but beyond my imagination, they were amazingly new. I quickly went back to ask the owner again to be sure if he really sold these items for less than half of the price. He seemed to be amused by my questions, so he laughed out loud. He didn't forget to tell me not to worry. All of these items were used by the family and bought recently because they moved to another place to live, and they wanted to liquidate them quickly so they can move on time. After saying that, he waved to the transporters to quickly bring the furniture into the house. I didn't know what to say other than thanking him a lot. If it weren't for him, I would have to find friends to borrow money from temporarily to buy furniture. In turn, large items were also carried inside, including tables and chairs, beds and decorations for the room. After everything was moved into the house, they also left and I started to clean my house. A few hours later, although I was sweaty and a little tired, when I looked back at my house I felt very relieved. Although it was not too big and spacious, it had been my dream since coming to the city to set up my business. Finishing it myself today, I was a little emotional. After finishing all the cleaning, I also had time to sit down on the soft sofa to make a phone call. I planned to send a message to thank the owner for selling me the furniture again, but after joining the group to find him, I was a bit surprised, because I was kicked out of that second-hand group. Even though that man blocked me, I was unable to send him messages anymore. For a moment I wondered deeply, because I remembered that in the morning I didn't do anything to make him angry. Why would he go to this extent? After that, I didn't think much of it. Maybe because he moved to another place. He didn't use his old website anymore. Because I was very tired after cleaning, after taking a shower, I went to bed immediately. That night, I didn't know exactly what time. It must have been around midnight. I was sleeping when I faintly heard some strange noises coming out. It woke me up. I listened to it. It seemed to be the cry of a child. It was not loud, but it was like it was coming from a faraway place. I tried to go back to sleep, but I couldn't. At first I thought it was the sound of the neighbors next door. They must have had young children, so they cried every now and then. But then the crying got louder and louder. I couldn't sleep, so I sat up. Sitting still for a while in bed, I suddenly realized that the strange sound was not coming from outside the house, but from my living room. It was exactly the moaning and crying of a baby. I got out of bed and gently opened the room door to look outside. As soon as I opened the living room door, I had no doubts that a very loud cry came from just outside. The room was quiet and dark, giving me goosebumps. I looked at the far corner of the room where the big wardrobe I just bought in the morning was. The sound of children crying came from there, no doubt. But why was there crying right in my house? I was a bit wary. I looked over to the side of the bedroom door. I had a baseball bat. I also was a little scared at this time because maybe some thief was trying to scare me or something, but I still decided to check it out. I grabbed the baseball bat and walked out of the living room step by step. Standing in front of the closet door, the crying didn't stop but became clearer. A little hesitant. What if inside there was a thief waiting for me to open the door? He would immediately do bad things to me. But I finally mustered up my courage and opened the closet door slightly, then peered inside to check. What scared me was that behind the door there was a woman holding a baby. Her hair was drooping and the baby looked dead. Its eyes had just big, scary black holes. Suddenly she turned around and looked at me directly with her white eyes and angry expression. She screamed in pain, her eyes also filled with a lot of blood, looking very scary. At this point I was so scared that my whole body froze. I was both surprised and panicked. I screamed out loud. Even though I wanted to turn and run, my legs were stiff, so I fell on my back to the ground. I knew she wasn't human. I tried with the last of my strength to crawl out of there, but I couldn't, and she still screamed in that high-pitched voice. She thought I was her husband and kept saying I abandoned her and her baby. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I threw myself up and tried to run away from the house. Behind me, I knew that a strange woman and a child were still trying to chase after me. In my greatest panic, I immediately ran to the neighbor's house to ask for help. I kept banging on the door and screaming. The neighbors in the block heard my voice and immediately opened the door. As soon as I saw them, I immediately told the story that I met at the house. But at first, everyone around thought that the scary woman was just an intruder in my house. So we decided to try to catch the thief. I pointed to the closet, convinced that this woman was hiding there, but when they opened the closet, the woman and her baby were gone. This made everyone around feel extremely surprised. Only one man had a premonition that something was wrong. He opened the door and looked up at the hidden corner of the cabinet and discovered something horrible. It was a red talisman that had been glued to the corner of the cabinet where no one noticed, and that was the cause of everything. We immediately took off the red talisman. He started to be panicked. No one seemed to believe their eyes. When the talisman was removed, it revealed the long black hair wrapped inside. Many people told me that this was a talisman and a spell used to imprison the soul of a person who died unjustly. I listened to the advice of my neighbors, immediately brought this red talisman and burned it to ashes, and then disposed of the wooden cabinet. I smashed the cabinet to pieces and threw it outside, then bought myself a new one. Since then, I never saw the scary woman ever again.